Today, we're going to talk about the story of the single most powerful and maybe the most terrifying invention in all of human history, the atomic bomb. This is a story about jaw-dropping science, the desperation of a world at war, and a technological leap that changed everything, forever.
And we have to start right here, with these chilling words from the man at the very center of it all, J. Robert Oppenheimer. They just perfectly capture the immense, terrible weight of what he and his team unleashed. So, to understand how a man could come to say something like that, we've got to go back to the beginning.
All right, let's get into it. The story of the bomb doesn't kick off in some secret weapons lab. Nope, it starts in the minds of physicists who are turning our understanding of the entire universe completely on its head.
So the key idea here is something called nuclear fission. Put simply, imagine you could crack open the very core of an atom, the nucleus. The energy holding that tiny thing together is just immense, and when you split it, a little bit of that energy is released. Now, scientists realized if you could set off a chain reaction where one splitting atom causes the atoms next to it to split, and so on, you could unleash an explosion unlike anything anyone had ever seen.
What's just staggering is how fast all of this happened. I mean, look at these dates. In less than 10 years, we went from discovering the key to splitting the atom, this little thing called the neutron, to the horrifying realization that this new physics could be turned into a weapon. And that last step, that famous letter from Albert Einstein to the president, that wasn't just a scientific heads up. It was the starting gun for a desperate global race against time.
So how did the United States respond to that warning? With a secret project on a scale that is almost impossible to wrap your head around, the Manhattan Project. And its goal was as simple as it was terrifying: build an atomic bomb before the Nazis did.
You know, this whole thing was this really unique, kind of strange marriage of military might and pure scientific genius. On one side, you had General Leslie Groves, the ultimate organizer, the guy who could get anything built. And on the other, you had J. Robert Oppenheimer, the brilliant physicist who had to wrangle this team of geniuses to solve the fundamental puzzle of the atom.
Just take a second to look at that number: over 130,000 people. Now, how in the world do you keep a project that massive a secret? Well, the answer was extreme secrecy. You can almost think of it as a secret industrial nation, where the vast majority of the workers had absolutely no idea what they were actually building. They just knew their little piece of the puzzle was crucial for winning the war. And all this work was happening in entire cities that literally did not appear on any maps. You had Los Alamos up on a remote desert mesa in New Mexico. That was the brains of the operation. And then you had Oak Ridge in Tennessee and Hanford in Washington, where these colossal factory cities just sprang up out of nothing, built for one single purpose: to produce the incredibly rare nuclear fuel needed for the bombs.
Now here's a crucial point. They weren't just building one bomb. They were actually going down two totally separate paths at the same time. The little boy design was a fairly simple gun-type device that used uranium-235. The real trick there wasn't the design itself, but making enough of that super-rare uranium. The Fat Man bomb used plutonium, which was easier to produce, but it required this unbelievably complex implosion design to even work. They were basically betting on two different horses, just praying that one of them would make it across the finish line.
By the summer of 1945, the race against Germany was over. The Nazis had surrendered. But the war in the Pacific was still raging, and the project kept pushing forward, its focus now entirely on Japan. But before they could actually use the weapon, they had to answer one enormous, terrifying question.
See, the gun design for the uranium bomb was so straightforward, they were pretty sure it would work without even a test. But the plutonium bomb? That was a whole different beast. It needed a perfect sphere of explosives to detonate at the exact same microsecond, crushing a core of plutonium into itself to start the chain reaction. If it was even a little bit off, it would just be a very expensive dud. The entire plutonium effort, billions of dollars, hinged on this one single test.
And so, in the pre-dawn darkness, out in the middle of the New Mexico desert, they got ready to find out. The device, which they nicknamed the Gadget, was sitting up on a 100-foot steel tower, just waiting for the moment that would literally divide all of human history into before and after. The explosion wasn't just a success. It was beyond their wildest, most terrifying fears. A flash of light brighter than a dozen suns, a mushroom cloud boiling miles up into the sky. It released the energy of 22,000 tons of TNT. In the blink of an eye, a power was unleashed that could wipe a city clean off the map, a power that really did not belong in the human world.
And it was in that moment, as he watched this terrible, beautiful fireball grow, that Oppenheimer remembered that line from Hindu scripture we started with. He knew, right then and there, that the world would never, ever be the same. The theory was now a horrifying reality.
So, the Trinity Test worked. The United States was now armed with a weapon of truly unimaginable power. The theory was proven. And now, it was time to use it. In the space of about a week, the world was shaken to its core. On August 6th, the untested uranium bomb, Little Boy, basically erased the city of Hiroshima. Just 3 days later, a copy of the Trinity device, Fat Man, did the same to Nagasaki. Faced with what they called a reign of ruin, Japan surrendered. The Second World War was finally over. But the end of that war came at a price that is just staggering to comprehend. These numbers, as horrific as they are, can only hint at the scale of the human tragedy. Hundreds of thousands of lives, mostly civilians, were just snuffed out by the blast, the fire, and the invisible poison of radiation that came after.
So the bomb ended one war, but it immediately set the stage for the next one. The American monopoly on this ultimate weapon lasted for only 4 years. When the Soviet Union detonated its own atomic bomb in 1949, the world tumbled into a completely new kind of conflict, the Cold War.
And this new conflict led to one of the most terrifying military doctrines in history, mutually assured destruction, or MAD for short. And the logic was as simple as it was completely insane. The only way to stop the other side from launching a nuclear attack was to guarantee that you could destroy them in return, even after you'd been hit. For decades, peace was kept by holding a gun to the entire planet's head.
And that leaves us right here, with the central, haunting paradox of the atomic age. In a desperate race to build a weapon to end the deadliest war in history, we gave ourselves the power to end all wars and to end ourselves along with it. The question of whether we've truly mastered that terrible power or for just its temporary guardians is still the biggest question of our time.